Alright, this is part 5B to what if Deku was born with a hybrid quirk. So he constantly is. So in the last bit, I mentioned that Izuku, Kirishima, Momo, Kendo, and Ishido kind of made plans to like meet up at Momo's place on Saturday and kind of do some like training, and the Izuku giving them like some pointers and stuff like that while they do like the homework that they had to do over the weekend. They scheduled like a time in the afternoon where like a time before they like start doing the training and everything. And at this point, it's been like the Principal Nezu has kind of told Izuku and Katsuki, like, if students ask for your help, to like, kind of sort of guide them a little bit, give them a few pointers, because after the sports festival, we plan on announcing um a new club for the school, and you two are pretty much going to be leading it with um with two teachers being like the teacher representatives, and one of them has to be present during these meetings because you guys will be going over quirk control, like working on your quirks, doing like little like coming up with new ways of using your quirks and like actually thinking about it and stuff like that. So, and he's told them to not really go in depth, but just kind of like pick their brain if they ask you like ways of like training and stuff like that. You can go over your martial arts because that's not quirk related, but quirk related stuff you've got to like be careful with it. So that being said, we'll get to the morning of. Katsuki and Bakugo get up like usual, and unlike what they normally do for the run, Izuku is just kind of like doing katas. Like, he's not really working out, he's just doing like minor stuff, and he's just like waiting for while Katsuki does like his jog on the treadmill and does like his reps and everything. And Izuku's kind of spotting him like when he's doing all this to like catch him if something does happen. And Izuku's just doing his karate katas and like his forms. So like after that, that's about they woke up at like 6 because they weren't gonna like meet up with their respective groups until around 10:30 for Katsuki and 11 in the morning for Izuku, because that's when everyone can really get there because they are spread out throughout the city. And the Momo, like the Yaoyorozu estate, is in a posh area, so it's kind of like a gated community kind of thing. So we skip. Katsuki like meets up with Araka. He says like have he asked her like have you eaten yet and everything, and she says not really. Like, I just grabbed like a granola bar and stuff like that. And Katsuki is like perfect because like I kind of like rushed out because I had to like run an errand before like we met up. Like, I had to drop off like a prescription for Izuku for like compression bandages, and she's like, "What? Wait, is he okay?" and everything. Katsuki's like, "Yeah, he's okay. It's just the compression bandages will like help his bones like strengthen up a bit. Like, he's supposed to wear them like when he's sleeping, and he needs new ones because like the ones that he has now are too weak to like help do that." So Izuku kind of asked me to drop it off, and he'll pick it up. He'll pick them up in the afternoon because these bandages have like tech in them, and it's like he brings in the old ones, he exchanges them and everything, so that way he doesn't have to pay full price for them. And at the end, he will return them, and he'll get like 50. He gets like $50 off of like each one if they're not damaged and they can be salvaged and used again. Because in their city, like recycling, like stuff like that and medical equipment is actually looked on as like a good thing, and it's kind of something Izuku like would really want to do because of his mom and everything. And so Katsuki and Uraraka go to like a diner close to a beach, and at this point the locals, like all the locals and like the police officers that are actually at Shield, that patrol all the locals around Shield Maidens Beach, and like the cops that really patrol like that area, like know who Izuku are and Katsuki are. So like as long as they're not like overtly using their quirks and like causing like panic and stuff like that, if like every once in a while like they accidentally use their quirks at the beach, they won't really do anything. They kind of like overlook it because they know Izuku and Katsuki are like really good kids, and then they want to be heroes and stuff. So like they kind of give a little leeway because Katsuki and Izuku have uh, been around like the shopkeepers and stuff like a few times, like stopped some robbers because like they happen to be there when the place is getting robbed. So like they quote defended themselves unquote. And so like the shopkeepers, like if they see something, or like the locals that are around, like they've helped people out, like they're always kind of like Izuku's kind of like always helping everyone that he sees, like no matter like how menial it is. So like they have developed like a sort of friendship with the people that normally are around that area. So Katsuki's like, yeah, I know where this place is, and it's like actually near the place where we'll do some training and stuff and exercise, and then we can kind of um go over like your quirk a little bit because yours is zero gravity, right? And she's like, yeah, but I get queasy and stuff, and like I wanted to pick your brain about it because you can fly and stuff, and I wanted to see if like you've experienced that. And Katsuki's like, yeah, the first couple of times that I did it, when I would like overexert myself, and even now when I overexert myself, I do get like a little queasy in my stomach. And so like they won't like work on their quirks, but he'll like explain, though in the afternoon Katsuki will go over like details of like how he trained to like kind of come overcome that little bit of a difficulty. So now we cut to Izuku's group, and we are at 8 minutes. Good. We have 22 minutes to go through this, and that should be it for part 5. And then I already had part 6 a little bit stripped it out, and I need to work on that. So we cut back to Izuku. I'm sorry, like I've been dry. I kind of like burnt my finger and everything, and the medications that I'm on make me cotton mouth. So most of the time when I'm pausing, I'm drinking something. So I apologize about that. So we cut to Izuku's group, and obviously Izuku and Katsuki said goodbye to Katsuri and promised that tomorrow they'll one of them will like hang out with her, and she kind of says like, I want to hang out with Big Bro Izuku, and like Katsuki kind of like gets a little mad about this because both of them do like their little sister, and in her eyes like they're both equal, but with recent events with Izuku, she's a little bit more towards Izuku at this time as far as that paternal, like that familial love. Like she still hasn't really completely gotten used to like how Deku is now. So Izuku meets up with Kirishima and Nishido because like they planned on meeting up like outside, and also Kendo will meet up with them a little bit later. So Izuku, Kirishima, and Nishido meet up to like get some drinks and snacks and stuff like that. And when they go to pay and everything, like Kirishima and Nishido like go to pay and everything, like Izuku kind of like walks up to the counter and puts his stuff down too, and he's like, I've got this, guys, like this is like on me. And they kind of look at him and they're like, wait, what? Like, you don't have to do that. And he's like, and Izuku kind of like turns to them and firmly says, like, I've got this. Like, I feel bad that I'm kind of dragging you guys out, like, a little far from your guys' place. And he's like kind of just like really nicely but firmly like saying like, I've got this, and he pays for it and everything, and they kind of they're like thanking him, is like, you, and then Kirishima is like, you know, you didn't have to do that, and he's like, well, considering I bruised your rib like last year, you can consider this payment for that. And Kirishima's like starts to laugh, and he's like, you know, Kirishima starts to laugh, like, all right, man, like, you got it. And then she was like, wait, what? Like, he bruised his rib? And it's like, yeah, we, like, during the 10 months before the entrance exam, like, I was teaching him a few karate moves and how to throw people. And when I bumped him, I kind of used a little bit too much of my strength and kind of, like, bruised, like, a couple of his ribs. And then, like, I kind of fixed it, like, immediately, like, after he, like, started coughing, but it still, like, he said it was still sore for a couple of days, so, yeah. And Izuku's just, like, kind of, like, a little bit smiling, and, like, because this is the first, like, friend, these are, like, the first couple of friends that he's really made at the school, because unlike Katsuki, who's been kind of like talking to people like Kirishima a lot, and like Kirishima and Katsuki were pretty much the only people he would talk to, and then he started talking to Kendo and Momo like after the USJ, because they had conversations about like actually going to, like, Kendo and him going to, like, some of the same karate classes, and Momo, like, knowing Katsuki and Izuku from when they were, like, babies, and all the times that they met up after, like, her family kind of moved away, and then, like, them coming back for his dad's funeral, and then subsequently for his mother's memorial service and stuff like that. And he didn't really approach them like at his mom's because he didn't really know them, and at this point it had been a few years, and he was really like just kind of broken when his mom passed. So this is like Izuku's like really making some real friends. He's not it's kind of new for him because he always kind of keeps to himself, and this kind of like it feels kind of weird for Ishida because she's never really seen this side of Deku where he's smiling and like joking with someone. And as they're like leaving and everything, Izuku kind of like walks out and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to go next door real quick," because like they're like his, like one because there's a music store next door, and he wanted to like pick up like a new CD. That's why he picked like the convenience store next to like this place because it's like right next to a music store. And so he goes in and gets like the CD that he wanted to get, and he comes out. And when then this time that he's in the store, like Ishida kind of asked him, he's like, "So what's up with Izuku?" Like he's joking and everything, and Kirishima kind of explains that he, the reason why Katsuki and Izuku, don't really look alike and they're about the same age and they have the same last name is Izuku's parents passed away when he was young, and that made him to kind of like stay with himself, like kind of keep to himself, and he's actually a pretty cool dude once he opens up. And the fact that he's like actually acting like this around you means like he's really from when he first met him, it took a couple of months for him to like kind of like show that around him, and it's taken like half the time. So he seems like he is getting better, but just kind of be patient with him because he did suffer a lot when he was a kid, and the Buck and Katsuki's parents, like them being childhood friends and everything. Katsuki's parents took Izuku in, and he's basically been treated as like one of their own. So like that's why they call each other brother and everything. And Ishida understands this, and she understands that she understands it. So like they get together, and then like they meet up with Kendo, and then they head over to Yaoyorozu, like the Yaoyorozu estate. And upon like getting there, like Kirishima and Ishida's like, "Wow, Momo's like rich," and Izuku kind of like chuckles a little bit, and like and so like when Izuku chuckles, Kendo also chuckles a little bit, and they kind of like look at him and was like, "What?" And it's like, "Yeah, like we kind of knew this," and they were like, "Wait, what?" And it's like, and then Izuku and Kendo kind of go into it that they all kind of knew each other when they were little kids, and they basically spent like their like later childhoods in like early teen years. Like basically the last time they really saw any like each other was when me and Izuku were like a little bit after like our 6th birthdays and stuff, when Izuku finally like stopped coming to like karate school and everything, and he would only show up like every once in a he would only show up on Saturdays like once a month, and at that point I wasn't there on the weekends, and I probably may have seen him once, maybe twice over like that year. So the last time they really saw each other was when they were really young. And Izuku explains that his dad, like his father, and he kind of looks down a little bit, and he's like, "Yeah, when the company my dad passed, when the company that my dad worked at when he passed was the Yaoyorozus, and apparently Like, and apparently, like, my dad and her dad were kind of friends and everything. So, like, they showed up to my dad's funeral and my mom's funeral, and um, I haven't seen Yagorozu until we got to UA, until about 6 months before the UA. Like, I kind of ran into her because I kind of remember her smell. And at this point, Kendo and Nishido kind of look at him and they're like, "Wait, what do you mean?" And then Izuku is like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Like, I didn't really explain that too well. My quirk, superhuman, kind of enhances my natural abilities. Like, I have a heightened sense of smell, I have a heightened sense of taste, a heightened sense of hearing, and I had to train myself to like kind of numb my nerve endings because I had like I could sense temperature changes very like temperature and like people touching me and everything kind of like hurt when I was like younger. And he goes on to like that's kind of why like I freak out like a lot when people touch me without me knowing because it just and Ishido and Kendo is like assuring that it's okay, like we get it. And so and this is something that he kind of went over with Kirishima during the 10 months. And so like they come up and Momo kind of is like, "I'm sorry, like I didn't tell you guys." And Izuku and Kendo's like, "Well, we sort of kind of already knew, remember, if you haven't forgotten, we kind of like we kind of knew Izuku when we were younger, and then like the question of you asking me if he's okay." And at this point, Momo kind of blushes at that when Kendo says that, and Ishido and Kendo kind of like prod her a little bit about it, like doing a little joke about it, and this is like makes Izuku this just goes completely over Izuku and Kirishima's head because they're kind of dumb in this area. And so they go in. We are at 22 minutes. I got 8 minutes. Good. So they come in and everything, and Momo introduces the group to like her mother and everything. So she introduces Kendo, she introduces Kirishima, she introduces Ashido, and then she introduces Izuku as Izuku in Bakugo, and she tells her mom like this was Mr. Hasashi's son, and at this point Momo's mom just kind of like goes wide-eye, and because like they had kind of lost touch, and because of the whole betrothal thing, like they kind of missed it because they had planned to talk to them after Izuku and Momo were 16. But because of the whole training course and everything, where Izuku and Katsuki kind of moved away for a few years, and them not really being around like the company, and the Yaoyorozu's moving away when she was young, and them only coming back like a couple of times, they kind of like lost track of Izuku. And so Izuku kind of like talked to Momo and Kendo about his mom and dad, like who they were, And he told him like he doesn't really like people knowing who his mother was, even though he loves his mother. It's just people either treat him one of two ways. They don't really treat him like his own person. They either feel extremely sorry for him, or they constantly ask him questions about his mother, and it's still a pretty painful topic for him. So he tries to avoid it, and that's why he started going by M Bakugo, like M-Bakugo. So she's like, okay, and everything. And it's like, are you guys gonna do anything? We can have the chefs. And Yuzuku, Kendo, Ishido, and Kirishima says like they've already eaten. They kind of just want to go over. They want to do their homework and stuff like that. And they're like, well, you can use the summer dining room. And Ishido and Kirishima are like, wait, the summer dining room? And Momo is like, yeah, it like overlooks the garden and everything. And they're like, wait, what? Like, all this stuff is new to these two. Because they don't really come from families that have a lot. Like, they're not from like dirt poor families, but they're also not from like very affluent families either. So they go over their homework and stuff like that. Momo's dad comes by and everything and introduces himself, and he kind of asks to speak with Izuku and Momo like in private. And he's already like gotten in touch with Mitsuki because they realized that that he was adopted by them and everything. So it took him like a couple hours to like get information and stuff from like his company, and he contacted them and explained the situation. Mitsuki kind of had a freaking heart attack because this is kind of the first time that she's really heard about it. And but she remembers Hasashi one time, like she remembers like Hasashi and Mazura talking about it one time, like one night when they were drunk and stuff. And Mazura's like, he kind of goes like, oh yeah, Hasashi kind of mentioned that one time. And Missy's like, how couldn't you have said something like this? This is a very important thing. You should have discussed with me at least when Izuku came to live with us. And Mazura's like, yeah, okay, sweetie, because when Mitsuki wants to be, she can be pretty intimidating. So like, Momo's father kind of like asks him, like, so do you guys want to like set up? And he kind of explains. He kind of explains the whole thing, and like Izuku is kind of shocked at this, and Momo's just kind of blushing and everything, and her like Momo's father kind of looks at her and is like, so you like him, don't you? And she's like, yes, but like there's also someone else that likes him, and like we don't want to hurt each other. We just want him to decide. And Momo's father kind of like accepts this, but he says like this next weekend, like they are going to have like a dinner, like the Bakugos and the Yajirozus are gonna like have a dinner with each other and kind of like go over like the details of like the agreement that him and Hasashi made. and it's totally on you two if you want to go through it with it. So they, like, when they're coming back, they're kind of like, both of them are kind of blushing, and Kendo and Ashita are kind of like poking at Momo and everything, and Kirishima's kind of like joking with because when kids at this point, when like two people walk back in the room and like their faces are kind of red, it even a guy like Kirishima isn't like that dense, like, especially considering like the conversations he had with Dinky and Mineta. So like, even at this point, Kirishima, he's not that dense to where something like that would go over his head, but just like a little bit of being flustered that Momo did when they came in and everything, it kind of went over both Izuku and his head. And at this point, like, Deku has kind of like started looking at either Momo and Kendo, because he has been thinking about their past, and he's like, yeah, well, like, they both kind of were in combat. Kendo kind of likes martial arts. Momo likes learning about how to use her quirk, and that's something that interests him. They and so he's been going over it, like, okay, this and this, like, doing like a pros and cons kind of thing, not really putting a lot of effort into it, but like just going over his past and like thinking about these two and stuff. So like the seed in the back of his head was there, and then with this whole thing, it kind of made him realize that he does kind of like either one of them. And after hearing what Momo said, he's kind of worried that he'll hurt one of them. So after they get done with their homework, they go to the gym and they see all kinds of weights and stuff like that. And so, like, they do some light trading. Izuku kind of like points out ways that they can do stuff better, and kind of gets a good feeling for like what each of their quirks. And through this, Ashido has like she's able to like improve her quirk a little bit just through theoretical. And when one of Momo's parents came by, like, they kind of helped. They were like, well, if you guys want to like use your quirks a little bit, we can like allow it, but because we do have like professional trainers in here. And Momo like kind of like gets a little flustered about that, because she didn't want to like go overboard on everything the first time that she's having friends over, like her new friends over to her place. Like, she's the type of person that doesn't really like flaunting her wealth. Like, she's kind of like Ida. Like, she kind of just doesn't really want to like flaunt the fact that she actually has an obscene amount of money. Like, her family has an obscene amount of money. But she's not so much like Ida, to where like Ida doesn't really want, like, Ida being rich. He doesn't want people treating him different because his family has money. Momo's like that, but she does kind of show her wealth a little bit every once in a while, unlike Ida. So that being said, they do work on like their quirks a little bit. Kirishima works on having his hardening quirk like activated while moving and everything, kind of building up like the strength of it at a lower level of hardening. So basically refining it to a point to where like he can harden up um and just brush off some damage while still moving and everything. And working slowly and slowly to his unstoppable spoiler alert if you haven't gotten to the naming section in like season 4, his unbreakable red riot mode. So, and then Ashina's getting closer to her, is a little bit closer to her season 4 counterpart, to where like Ishiro can like shoot out like acid from her hands and stuff in like a cone, in like a cone like directional, and she's doing this and everything, and then Izuku kind of says like, put your hand, like if you're trying to like shoot acid out from your hands, like kind of put them together and make like a faucet with it and try it like that. And she kind of does it, and she's like, whoa, and like they work a little bit on that, and then Izuku's talking to Momo about it, and Kendo about like their quirks, and he's more so going over like martial arts with them, because their quirks aren't like, they're like, Momo's quirk is very utility based, and she kind of needs to work on like her physical like hand-to-hand combat styles and stuff like that. So they kind of work on like refining her combat, like her hand-to-hand combat, because she already has a pretty good handle on her quirk. Like she can make pretty much anything, as long any non-living thing, like inanimate object, like non-living thing, as long as she knows the chemical composition of it and the way that it's structured. So, and Kendo has kind of like learned pretty decently how to use her quirk in hand-to-hand combat, and it's kind of like they kind of work on like a unique fighting style where she can like enlarge her hands and do like some karate moves with them. Like she can jump up, like you extend her hand out and kind of like use it as a springboard, like, and flip over and then come down with a heel to like someone's head or something like that. And like they kind of work on like a few moves and stuff, and so the day ends. They say their goodbyes and stuff like that, and Izuku, like everybody basically goes home, and like there says like we'll see you guys like on Monday, kind of thing. And they kind of like were like, yeah, we should do this more often, like get together, do some studying, do some theory crafting on like our quirks, and when possible to like actually do some like applications on it. And so they kind of agree to it, and unbeknownst to them, this is kind of going to be like the start of the quirk development club. So with this, I'm going to end this part. I believe this is part 5B. I may record a part 6, and that's going to be going over the last week before the sports festival. And people are like, oh, why are you doing this before the sports festival and everything? And yeah, I'm going to do it before the sports festival, because that way I can set up a little bit of a rivalry in the sports festival between Momo and Kendo. Like, yeah, like, I'm going to do it before. I'm going to have that happen before the sports festival and not after. So, with that, Auf Wiedersehen, and see you in the next part.